I don't know what the instrument is like that it's imitating, but it's quite nice. Gopijana Vallabha Jai Giridharadhari Gopijana Vallabha Jai Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Jaya Bhattacharya Ranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Bhattacharya Ranjana Gopijana Vallabha Jai Giridharadhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jai Giridharadhari Yashodananda Jaya Bhattacharya Ranjana Yashodananda Jaya Bhattacharya Yamuna Tiravamachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravamachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jai Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai Vishnu Paramahamsa Prabhupada Star Substance Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnu Paramahamsa Prabhupada Star Sat to His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Devamita Swami Tinamine Pachara Purvandakshan Shah Bhaktivachana Panavarta Pitaya Pirkarnim Yase Sarvajite Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirashesha Shudivani Pasitadi Deshitarne. Hare Krishna, dearest devotees. Today we are continuing our reading on the Gancharaj of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. The Science of God, Chapter 8. Lord Nrsingadev slays the king of the demons, and we're reading a very famous text today, text 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Satyam vidhatum nijabritya bhashitam vyaptim cha bhuteshva akileshu chatmanaha adrishyat at yabutam rupam udhavan stambe sabhayam na mrgam na manusham Satyam vidutam, satyam vidatum, nijabritya bhashitam, vyaptim chabuteshva kileshu chat manaha, adrishyat at yabutam rupam udvahan, stambhe sabhayam na mrgam na manusham, Satyam vidatam nijabritya bhashitam vyaptim chabuteshva kileshu chatmanaha adrishyat at yabutam rupam udhan stambe sabhanam namargam namashunam. Would anybody like to chant the verse?
Satyam vidhatum nijabritya bhashitam vyaptim chabuteshva kileshu chatmanaha adrishyatat yadbhutarupam udvahan stambe sabhayam namrigam namo manusham.
Keep a room. Anybody else like to chant? Okay. Synonyms: Satyam, true; Vidhatum, to prove; Nijabhritabhashitam, the words of his own servant Prahlad Maharaj, who had said that his Lord is present everywhere; Vyaptim, the pervation; Cha, and; Bhuteshu, among the living entities and elements; Akileshu, all; Cha, also; Atmanaha, of himself; Adrishyata, was seen; Ati, very; Adbhuta, wonderful; Rupam, form; Udvahan, taking; Stambhe, in the pillar; Sabhayam, within the assembly; Na, not; Mrgam, an animal; Na, nor; Manusham, a human being. In translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: to prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial. In other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Purport. When Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, "Where is your Lord? Is he present in this pillar?" Prahlad Maharaj fearlessly replied, "Yes, my Lord is present everywhere." Therefore, to convince Hiranyakashipu that the statement of Prahlad Maharaj was unmistakably true, the Lord appeared from the pillar. The Lord appeared as a half lion and half man, so that Hiranyakashipu could not understand whether the great giant was a lion or a human being. To substantiate Prahlad's statement, the Lord proved that his devotee, as declared in the Bhagavad Gita, is never vanquished. Kaunteya pratijanahi namhe bhakti pranashati. Prahlad Maharaj's demoniac father had repeatedly threatened to kill Prahlad, but Prahlad was confident that he could not be killed since he was protected by the Supreme Lord. By appearing from the pillar, the Lord encouraged his devotee, saying, in effect, "Don't worry, I am present here." By manifesting his form as Nrsimhadev, the Lord also preserved the truth of Lord Brahma's promise that Hiranyakashipu was not to be killed by any animal or any man. The Lord appeared in a form that could not be said to be fully a man or a lion. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadadmayam Dadanti Swadpadantikam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavrindam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Churubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyebhata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Translation again. To prove the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial. In other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Okay. Let me pull up my notes. All right, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So I thought today we could speak about surrender. It's always nice to hear about surrender. And hopefully if I speak about it, I'll actually surrender a little bit more. So this is a very nice part of the Bhagavatam. All the parts of the Bhagavatam are very nice to hear about because they're talking about ways in which we become closer to Krishna, which is always nice to hear about. This part of the Bhagavatam is highlighting the perfect and absolute surrender of Prahlad Maharaj. He is in complete Sharanagati, full surrender. And we're hearing here in this pastime, as we've been hearing about for the past couple of days, and we'll be continue to hearing about in the next couple of weeks, this how the Lord is reciprocating with his dearest devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, who has complete faith that the Lord is present everywhere. So, of course, in this pastime, when his father, who is furious, absolutely furious with his son, and is so angry, and he says, he's like, your Lord can't be everywhere. What about this pillar? This is just solid like matter. How can something like the Lord, who's the source of everything, be present in some dull matter as this pillar? So here we're hearing in the purport how just to prove that his servant, that his dearest devotee, the word and the power of his dearest devotee, Lord Nishingadev appeared on that pillar just to prove to Hiranyakashipu, like Prahlad is correct. Prahlad's word does not go in vain. So then he appears in the pillar, and of course we hear later how when he smashes the pillar and then Lord Nishingadev comes out. It's a very beautiful appearance. The Lord is described very nicely in the pages of Bhagavatam. He's very beautiful with his like moon-like mane, and his like teeth are covered in blood. And anyways, it's a very beautiful description, which is nice to meditate on because the appearance day of Lord Nishingadev is coming up in the end of April. So it's a good time to be reading this pastime. Another appearance day is coming up very soon. We have the appearance day of Lord Ramachandra on Thursday. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about Ramachandra's pastimes in relationship to this idea of Sharanagati, full surrender, and partial surrender, and what that looks like. So this idea of full surrender, as we see in examples like Prahlad Maharaj, where they're fully surrendered onto the Lord. And there's so many other examples in Bhagavatam also of personalities that exhibit this quality of full surrender to the Lord. Maybe we can brainstorm some can put some in the chat, and we can speak about them. First, I'll speak about partial surrender. So different demonstrations of people who have partial surrender. The first one that came to my mind was the demigods, usually like Indra and other demigods. When they're in distress, they go to Vishnu or to Brahma or to Krishna, and they not Krishna in Vrindavan, but Vishnu. And they approach him and they say like, "Oh, we're so distressed. Can you please help us? Can you please, save us from this situation?" But they're not asking for pure devotional service. They're usually asking for relief from their current like suffering position, like the famous prayers of the demigods to Vishnu in the pastime with Vritrasura, and how Srila Prabhupada comments in the purport that they're not approaching the Lord in a mood of full surrender. They're approaching him in a mood of like, yeah, this is really uncomfortable and we'd like to be out of the situation so that we can continue enjoying our material opulence. This is like a partial surrender. Also, Dhruva Maharaj as well. Of course, he became like a pure devotee once he got to take darshan of the Lord directly, and he realized that all of his desires and the reasons that he was approaching the Lord were like broken pieces of glass in comparison to like this beautiful Shri Hari. So but he was also in a mood of like partial surrender when he approached the Lord with the desire in his heart just to get a kingdom greater than anybody in his family, including even Lord Brahma. So in this in the pastime of Lord Ramachandra, there are also many examples of different personalities who have full surrender and different personalities who have partial surrender. And I won't go into explaining the whole story of the Ramayana because it's very long, and also because we've all heard it many, many times before. Although I was listening to this really nice class yesterday by Kripamoya Prabhu, and he was describing like some of the aspects of the Ramayana, and so I was listening to get some inspiration. And he was saying at this point how the pastimes that we hear about in Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord, they're so magnificent that even though we've heard them so many times, when we hear them again, especially if they're told in a different way by somebody else, or we hear them spoken about, it's like you just get so absorbed in it that you can re-feel all of like all of the surprises come again, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Just like yeah, I remember at Boober Prabhu's house recently, a while or maybe a couple of weeks ago before they went to India, he had his showing of the uh, Maha Avatar movie of Lord Nrsingadev. And if we've all seen, like, we all read the pastime, we know what happens, but still, when Lord Nrsingadev came out of the column, everyone was like, wow, oh my gosh, I didn't expect to see that. So it's like the pastimes are so fresh that even if we hear them again and again and again, still you can hear them and be like, wow, I didn't know that. And he was telling the example of how one time there was some devotees and they were doing a, a, a play of the pastime of Lord Nrsingadev, and Srila Prabhupada was there. And of course, nobody knows the pastime of Nrsingadev better than Srila Prabhupada. But still, when the devotees were like acting it out, and then Nrsingadev came out of the pillar, Srila Prabhupada's eyes were like, whoa, really big, like, wow, I didn't expect to see that. So, yeah, it's just an example. It shows that these pastimes are like ever fresh. And if we have a taste for hearing them, then they will always remain ever fresh for us. But if we lose our taste for hearing them, then they become very mundane and stale, and to the vision of the person who has no taste, um, which is an unfortunate place to be. So anyways, yeah, the Ramayana. It's a very Lord Ram is very famous. Actually, he's so well known in India. Um, Probably if you went there, you could ask anybody, like even a very common person on the street, like, do you know about Lord Ram? And they would probably say yes, because he's so famous throughout India. Just like Krishna. Krishna is also so famous. But yeah, Lord Ram spreads his fame spreads even outside of India, into Pakistan and different countries like that. There's so many temples of where the Ramayana is depicted in the walls and carvings and things like that. And when I was listening to this class by Kripamoy Prabhu, he was saying actually even Hollywood has stolen the pastime of Lord Ramachandra. And then he was describing there's this very famous movie that most of us probably know, a series of movies, where there's this evil man and he lives on an island, or in this case, in this movie, he lives in space. And there's a young prince um, who has his princess, and the princess gets stolen away. And he was describing, he's like, yeah, Star Wars. This is like based on the Ramayana. And I had to look it up because I was like, no way. But it's true. George Lucas admitted that he took a lot of inspiration in writing the Star Wars trilogy, or however many movies there are, or books, from a lot of like ancient, like his like quote mythology, but actually it was depicted, a lot of it was from the Ramayana. So yeah, you have Ravana, who's living on an island and is very envious and angry, just like you have Darth Vader, who lives in space. And then you have a young prince, Lord Ramchandra, or in Star Wars you have I think his name is Luke, Prince Luke or something. And then his princess Leia, or you have Sita Devi. So like this, and she gets stolen away by the evil king. So anyways, I just was like, wow, look at that. Interesting. Not that it's necessarily bona fide to watch, but I just thought it was a fun fact to share. So Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, um, it's really nice to meditate on, and the whole story, of course, it's very long, and there's many versions of it. We have the Valmiki Ramayana, which is like, according to Srila Prabhupada, is like the gold standard of the Ramayana literatures. It's also in Veda base, or you can find it, alongside Srila Prabhupada's books. And it teaches us many things, but one of the things that it teaches us is how to deal with tribulations and the trials of life and setbacks. Because in so many parts of the Ramayana, like there's loss, or there's the personalities, they go through different like distressing situations. Like Dasarath, he loses his son, his favorite son goes to the forest, which we'll speak about in a bit. He also loses his favorite wife, which isn't something that's often mentioned, but his favorite wife, Koshalya, she's becomes transformed into this very, a hateful person, and then he loses his like favorite wife. Lord Ramchandra goes to the forest. He leaves his, home, his palace, and he shows ultimate renunciation. Leaves his most beloved, no, not most beloved, but he leaves his capital city and goes to the forest. Of course, he's self-satisfied, so he's not actually that attached. Sita Devi also leaves her opulent kingdom. She's been raised in a very opulent way, and she just renounces all of that and takes up forest life. And it's described in the Ramayana that when people saw Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman and Sita take up the garb, the dress um, what is it? Of not forest people, of sages, like the black deer skin and tree bark, that they actually cried because just seeing them, like knowing that they were going to leave and seeing them bereft of their like opulent clothing was like so shattering for them. And then, even when Bharat comes back and he learns of all the things that have happened, and his heart breaks because he's lost his lord, his brother. So many parts where there's like devastation and loss and tribulations and things that like for an average person would take like months for them just to get over that one thing, let alone like the repetitive amount of things that are happening in this pastime. And how the personalities, though, they're so devoted to Lord Sri Ramachandra, and they have so much faith in him, that it's like these things are so easy to get over. Um, yeah, just like I can't remember the exact verse or quotation right now, but um, maybe I can look it up so I don't commit offenses by speculating. Um, yeah, but even when we have um, Lord Krishna in our life, oh yeah, so for those taking shelter in of Krishna's lotus feet, the entire mature world, um, it appears as like so easy to cross over. It's like the water and the water and the calf's hoof print, like that little puddle of water. It's just so easy to cross over. So even though all of these like things are happening to all these different personalities, because they're just like so devoted to Lord Sri Ramchandra, who is no different than Krishna, then it's just like whatever, all good. Like I'll just go to the forest, no problem, like easy. Um, so yeah, the part that I wanted to highlight on this to talk about this aspect of surrender is this part that I really like from this pastime. Of course, the Ramayana is very nice to listen to and to read and hear different personalities highlight different aspects of the Ramayana that are nice to hear from. I was also listening recently to His Holiness Ramapad Swami. He's got quite a few lecture series on the Ramayana, like lessons from the Ramayana, the prayers of Hanuman, personalities from the Ramayana. Yeah, he's got heaps. I think he recently did a pilgrimage in that area of India where the Ramayana is very popular. So yeah, there's lots to hear about from him on this topic. Uh, but yeah, the pastime I wanted to focus on is one that I always find very like it just always hits me in the heart. I'm like, wow, that's like so. There's just so much love there. Is where is it? Oh yeah, so is Dasharath's attachment, his paternal attachment to Lord Ram. So as we know, like Dasaras, when he got married to three queens, and he wanted to have a son so badly, like you can imagine. So it's yeah, he just really wanted to have some sons to carry on his like heir of king of rulership. Um, so he finally, yeah, he got his wives became pregnant. Of course, it wasn't so easy. He had to go through some austerity, some tapa to fructify that so that his wives could actually bear children. And then he finally had his sons, and he yeah, he was so attached to Ram and Lakshman, and he was attached to them the most. But then he also had his other two sons, Satrugna and Bharat, and he was also attached to them too. Of course, naturally, he was a very loving father, loving to all of his inhabitants of his kingdom and everybody. But yeah, he really loved Lord Ram, like so much, of course, because Lord Ram's the supreme personality of Godhead, just like Yashoda, Mother Yashoda, and Nanda Maharaj. They also loved Krishna so much, like, yeah, more than anyone could ever love anything. So in this pastime, I'll just do it quickly. So Kaikeyu, she comes to Dathras one day, and Kaikeyu is Dathras' favorite wife. She's also the youngest. So, and she reminds him that once he was in battle and he was injured on his chariot, and how she actually came out into she came out into the army, and she gave him water, and she cured his wounds, and she made him fit again to fight. And he was so indebted to her that he said, I'll give you like two benedictions, whatever you like, just ask for me. And she said, like, I won't ask anything from you now. Later I'll ask. So this later, she took advantage of it now. Of course, she had been bewildered by a maidservant of hers, Mantra, who was very uh, envious. And when we associate with very envious people all of the time, then we take on their characters if we're not strong and we can't influence them. Just like if you hang out with people who are always depressed and anxious and angry and frustrated, then if we're not strong within our own bhakti, then we'll become like that, take on those qualities. Same with if you hang out with saintly devotees who are enthusiastic and loving Krishna consciousness and are giving it to other people and are finding absolute bliss and bhakti, then you'll become like that too. So, anyways, Kaikeyu got very influenced by her maidservant. She was actually a very sweet personality, but she became a very different person after she took so much association from this woman. So she goes to Dathras, and she asks him to grant her these two benedictions, and he was like, "Sure, I'll give you like no problem. Ask whatever you like." So she says, "First, I want." I want you to install my son Bharat as the prince regent to rule over Ayodhya instead of Ram. And he was thinking like, what? That's so random. Like Ram's gonna be installed tomorrow. Why? And then she said, and the second is I want you to banish Ram to the forest for 14 years. And this interesting point that Kripamoy Prabhu was saying is that 14 years is like the equivalent of like a life sentence, and to be banished to the forest was like the equivalent of a death sentence, because instead of just like killing them, they would give them, okay, you're banished to the forest. Like this is the equivalent for 14 years is the equivalent of like a life sentence to death. But of course, the personality has the opportunity of potentially coming across a sage and perfecting their life, but they also have the opportunity of potentially coming across a lion or a tiger and being killed. So that was like the death sentence of the time, according to Kripamoy Prabhu. So yeah, so that was just like completely shattering for Dasarath Maharaj, because he was so devoted to his son he was always like doing things that were very pleasing for him, and was had so much love and affection for him that he would do anything. He was um, he was always there. And I was also listening to some classes yesterday by Nisringa Prabhu about deity worship, and he was highlighting this point that kind of made these two points kind of come together for me a little bit. That he's saying, like, we should always worship the deity in a way that's very pleasing, like try and do things that are pleasing for the deity. And the deity of Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani and the different personalities on the altars, because Krishna is a person, and just like Shishi, Radha Damodar, they're people, and they've come in the deity form just like for our benefit, and we want to do things to them to get them to stay and not be like turned away. And I don't know, I was just thinking, like, Dasarath, he had so much love for his son. He would do so much for him. And then Nishinga Kavacha Prabhu was saying, he's like, yeah, when you're offering the deity, you want to offer them like, nice flowers that smell nice, because like, wouldn't you feel nice if someone like gave you a bunch of flowers that like actually had fragrance to them? Or you want to feed them things they like, and of course you have Lord Shishira Damodar. So you give them like some sweets and some nice flowers, and you offer them nice cloth, and you try and offer them things in a mood of like, please stay. Like I want you to come and stay here so that I can serve you, and in that mood. Of course, with deity worship, it's like we come in the mood of awe and reverence, and through Dasya Prem, we don't try and manipulate something in our mind like, that we're like Krishna's parent or something like that. It's just like, I am your servant. Please accept my service through the mercy of the spiritual master. So, anyways, just relating these 2 points a little bit, this aspect of deity worship, and just admiring how much love that Dasarath and, of course, different personalities have for Krishna. So, anyways, continuing on. So he loved Ram so much that he was so distraught. He told Kaikeyi, like, I can't tell Lord Ram that. I'm sorry, like, it's too much for me to do. So she was like, no problem, I can do it, easy. She like called him in, and she's like, yep, your father wants you to leave to the forest for 14 years. You know, see you later. And my son will be installed as Prince Regent. And hearing like Kaikeyi actually say that to Lord Ram, he just like, his heart was just like shattering. And yeah, Lord Ramchandra, he was so surrendered to his father, and that in those days, of course, like the father's word is like the word of God, so people would follow it so strictly. To disobey the parents was like not even heard of at the time. So he was just like, of course, like, yes, mother, I will do as you say. And then he left, and of course, so much happens later on. Yeah, Dasarath, he loved his son so much that he actually died out of his separation, because he was so attached to him, attached to Krishna. So yeah, fully surrendered to the Lord. That is just like, any separation is just too much. And of course, we have the highest form of Vipralambha Bhav demonstrated by the gopis in Vrindavan. They just loved Krishna so much that it was just like, yeah, the same, like it was just shattering for them when he left. Of course, he never actually left, because he was there in their full surrender and their mood of constantly thinking about him. And I was listening to one, or it says in Krishna book actually, and in the 10th canto, how when Akura like drove off in the chariot, took Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, and when he drove off, how the gopis were like just waiting there until they couldn't see the dust of the chariot wheels anymore. And there's this really nice picture of that where you can see them like just standing there, and then yeah, they're just like looking at this like empty road, and there's just like dust in the background. It's very beautiful. It's like, wow, I can't imagine what that feels like, because I've never loved anybody that much. But yeah, to just be like so like, oh, um, just have so much love for somebody that it's just like shattering. I wonder if anyone's ever experienced that before, where somebody you love leaves, and it's like you feel like you're gonna die at a separation. So how does that relate to us? So yeah, this, of course, we want to have that love for Krishna, that um, when we don't have service to Krishna, we don't have devotional service, it feels like our life has no meaning. What's the point of my life if I can't serve Krishna? Of course, you can always read and chant, which is service in itself. Um, but yeah, doing direct service for the Lord through the mercy of the spiritual master, through whether it's deity service or book distribution, preaching, uh, cooking, anything, it always makes us remember how actually we're very dependent on the Lord's mercy and the mercy of the spiritual master. Because we don't have that, we actually can't do any service at all. And especially if we get proud in the middle of the service, then we might lose the opportunity to do it altogether. So yeah, and Nifshanka Vachaprabhu is highlighting deity service means that we're always there for Krishna. Like you can see the pujaris and like Gita Nagari, they're always there for the Lords. They're always there doing service. Um, yeah, always taking care of the deities and their needs. And we want to show Krishna that we love him and that, yes, we are devotees. We're devotees of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which means that we're trying to become Krishna conscious. So how do we show Krishna that we love him? By following the basic rules of Krishna consciousness, by doing what Krishna says, and by being clean. I remember in the ashram, the devotees, we used to say to each other, like, if you actually loved Krishna Loka, she was our ashram manager. She was like our mom. If you actually loved Krishna Loka, then we would do what she says. It's so simple. Just like if we actually love the Guru, we do what he says. It's just like a very basic print. If you actually love Krishna, then we do what he says. Like Srila Prabhupada says, if you actually love me, then you'll read my books, because in my books there's everything there. So, yeah, of course, we might be so humble and think, oh, I don't actually have love. Like, there's that famous verse, if I actually had love for Krishna, I would have died long ago out of separation. So you can think, I don't actually have love. I don't actually even know what love is. But we can try to know what love is by reading about Krishna, by chanting Krishna's names, by making time to chant, by serving, because first comes service, then comes love. So even if we're not at the point of loving Krishna, if we just try and serve Krishna, then that feeling might develop in due course of time. Yeah, by service first, and then we might get an opportunity to actually feel what it feels like to love Krishna and his dearest devotees. And by following the principles, the basic rules, practicing cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Nishinga Vachaprabhu is a very nice, I'm sure most of you have heard it, lectures on deity worship. I was listening to it recently, reminiscing. It's a very nice service to do. But yes, if you get proud, then you lose the opportunity to do such service for Krishna. So anyways, I'll finish there. It's a bit little like mixed up class, but I want to speak a little bit about the Ramayana, because we're coming up on Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and it's always nice to meditate about Lord Ramachandra and the different personalities on their appearance days and the days leading up to it. So yeah, I always wanted to speak something about him, and then also tie in this mood of surrender, full surrender and partial surrender, highlighting the full surrender of Datharas Maharaj, who was so attached to his son that when his son left, he was so distraught that he left his body. And then tying in a little bit of this mood of surrender and service, deity service, worshiping the Lord. Yeah, wrapping it all in there together somehow. Anyways, I'll finish there. I do have to leave at 8, but if anybody has any comments or questions or reflections that they'd like to share, I'd be very happy to hear from you.
Hey, Hare Krishna, thank you for the sweet class. It was very relishable and pleasing to hear. Um, I was wondering, yeah, like if one has partial surrender, what's the hope that that partial surrender will eventually lead to full surrender and not just like diminish into no surrender?
Good question. Um, I'm not sure exactly, but I was thinking about the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, and his approach to Krishna was through the mood of partial surrender. Like, I'll do whatever I need to do just to get, what I need. I'll perform all these austerities, but then through the process of practicing, and through saying, following in the instructions of Narada Muni, who was his spiritual master, then he eventually reached a point where he got the causeless mercy of Krishna, who appeared to him in front of him and gave him like full knowledge of himself, by touching his little conch shell to Dhruva's head and empowering him to recite such nice prayers. So I can't speak from personal experience because I'm like on the not even partial surrendered platform. I'm still very much just doing things through my own senses. But I imagine that if one keeps following the process of bhakti yoga and the instructions of the spiritual master, that if we just keep doing it, eventually we'll get to the point when we have full surrender. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all that I have. I can't give uh, like timelines or anything like that, but I do know that you can go backwards. Um, so you can be uh, maybe going good and surrendering to the Lord and getting a taste of it, and everything is going well, and you can reverse your progress and go back into partial surrender, um, or even not surrendered at all. But yeah, I imagine that just if you keep practicing Krishna consciousness and you keep trying to be sincere as possible, and that surrender and that mood of partial surrender will turn into full surrender. Maybe someone who's got a little bit more realization on that can add in some knowledge.
Hare Krishna. In the purport of Nectar of Instruction, text 3, Prabhupada famously writes, devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. So whether we like it or not, we just stick to following Guru's orders then. Even though there's the three modes that are always acting, we will actually be dragged to ultimate success and full surrender.
Jai, great, love it. Yeah, I heard that that's why men have sikas, is so that Krishna can drag them back to Godhead, and that's why women have long hair, so that Krishna can take our braids and pull us all the way back home. Anyone else like anything to say?
I know also Nectar of Instruction has that verse saying that the holy name is sweet like sugar candy, but due to the jaundice of ignorance, one cannot taste the sweetness. But by carefully chanting these names every day, then one's natural relish can awaken. Um, but you know, as our Guru Maharaj just said that's the key. The key word in there is by carefully chanting. And yeah, that in that podcast with Nishinga Kavacha Prabhu, he was saying how Krishna consciousness is so simple. You just like follow the formula. You just follow the process, and then you'll get the results. Um, so I guess just by following the process, carefully chanting, then it's like then it's like I forget who says Rupa Goswami or something. I forget who says it, but gives the analogy like just like a son just has to stay alive to get his father's inheritance. So in that same way, the results will come just by us like sticking to it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Got about 4 minutes, 5 minutes left.
Thank you so much, Madhuvanila. It was such a nice and sweet class. I was reflecting. I'm cleaning my altar as I'm listening, and so that point of cleanliness is godliness. I have such a hard time maintaining cleanliness at home. So that was a very nice reminder as I'm trying to clean my altar. And yeah, we just wanted to say that. And yeah, just thank you for your time and thank you for your class.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like classes about cleanliness. It's always so inspiring to hear how to be clean. And yeah, I definitely when you're in an environment that's messy or dirty, then the mode of ignorance is so much more prominent, and then it's so much harder to like try and be in the mode of goodness, be clean. But yeah, it's always really, really good and inspiring to hear classes about cleanliness.
Yeah, maybe can you share more some inspiration on cleanliness? Like, how can we make sure that we can, maintain cleanliness at home as householder? Yeah, you have some inspiration, something that you already may be doing, time management and whatnot.
Gosh, if you could if you could see my pile of washing right now. No, I'm just joking. But uh, I I don't have very much to share at the moment. I'm definitely also struggling with keeping a clean environment, but I do know that if you're in an environment that's already clean, it's so much easier to practice cleanliness. Like if you spill something, you just clean it up right away because the environment's already very clean. Um, or if you put something down, it just stands out because like already everything is very clean. Whereas if you come into an environment that's messy, it's a lot harder to like try and practice cleanliness because the mood is like, oh well, it's already messy. So, but if we just actively try and be practice cleanliness, like even simple things like putting things in the place that we get them from or having a place for everything. Um, yeah, and just like catch yourself on these little things all the time. Like if you take your shoes off and you just leave them on the ground, or do they go on the shoe shelf? Like putting them on the shoe shelf instead of just leaving them there. Or if you spill something, you just clean it up right away. Or doing your washing on regulated days so you don't have like a massive Mount Meru pile of it waiting for you. Like just these small things, it actually helps kind of train the mind that we're supposed to do things. Things are supposed to be done in a certain order, and helps maintain that like mode of goodness mentality. Otherwise, it is kind of like the mode of ignorance. Like, I get home and I just like dump all my stuff on the ground and I leave it and I go do something else. It's like, that's going to be there when you come back. Or, yeah, like you can get so finite with it, but you can also just trying small things like making sure your desk is always clean, or making your bed right as you get up in the morning before doing anything else, so it's just like done. Yeah, or cleaning off, like making don't have like junk piles everywhere. Like if I'm the kind of person who likes some things to just like you throw things in somewhere, so I have a junk basket. That's like my limited space, and I clean it out once a week. But like don't have multiple places where you have junk everywhere. Just have like it limited to one location if you have to have that, because it like those places like breed the mode of ignorance. Um, yeah, I don't know. Those are just small things. I prefer like shelves that don't have anything on them, and spaces that are like empty, but then of course you need like to store stuff in places. So it's not always the most practical, especially as if you have kids and you enter into household life, you accumulate more things, so like that. But there's lots of nice classes about cleanliness. Um, always, always nice to hear about that from different people. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Yeah, very practical thing, like doing the small things so that it doesn't tie up into a big thing. So just being more attentive and with the small thing, like, yeah, I really, really like that practical tips there. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. No one wants to deal with like a big pile of washing or like a big pile of dishes. So just like one or, doing small things is okay. All right, any final comments? I do have to go soon. Or questions?
I have comments, but you need to go.
It's okay. You can comment. I can also just listen as I'm doing things.
Well, with regards to cleanliness, should have probably explained to us that cleanliness begins with our consciousness, that if you are actually Krishna conscious, then cleanliness is automatic. You will automatically want to clean. You'll be enthused to clean, and you will not be able to tolerate a situation that is unclean. It's like a barometer of your Krishna consciousness. If you are comfortable in a situation that is unclean, it's an indication that you're not very fixed up in your Krishna consciousness. By hearing and chanting, particularly, your consciousness will be purified, and it will be elevated. Sattva guna will become more prominent. At least initially, you rise through the modes of material nature to sattva guna, and in that condition, uncleanliness becomes intolerable. You automatically want to clean any situation that is unclean, and but if you're comfortable with cleanliness, then it means that your consciousness is such that um, there's not even hope for Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada told us that if you're unclean, God is a million miles away. It means that in order to begin to approach Krishna, at least you have to rise to sattva guna. But that's easy to do by hearing and chanting the holy names. Very quickly, if you follow the four regulative principles, and if you avoid the offenses by hearing and chanting, very, very quickly you are elevated to sattva guna. And then in that condition, cleanliness becomes very desirable, uncleanliness becomes intolerable, and there's a natural enthusiasm to clean. Cleaning is no longer a chore; it becomes joyful and natural. With regards to Ramayana, and thank you for the wonderful narrations of Ram Leela. A very long time ago, the Leela of Lord Ramachandra became popular everywhere. It is an epic story that has been hugely popular globally, relished by people everywhere, and it served as inspiration for all kinds of poetry and dramatic performances, and later in film and television. The the underlying themes of Ramayana are repeated everywhere again and again. The concept of a hero and a heroine and a villain, that comes from Ramayana, and it's been repeated in innumerable times because it's successful. But it's a reflection everywhere you see these things. It's a reflection of Ram Leela, and Ram Leela is wonderful, and so it's been repeated again and again in sometimes perverted ways, or just a dim reflection, but repeated because it's successful, because people love, in the core of their being, they love Ram Leela, and so wherever it's reflected, they will appreciate that also. I'll mention one quick thing before I stop about the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. Little known fact, Srila Prabhupada once told us that when Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad if his Lord was present in the pillar, Srila Prabhupada explained, Prahlad looked towards the pillar, and not simply that he saw Lord Nrsimhadev there because he saw God everywhere, but the way Srila Prabhupada described it, Lord Nrsimhadev actually peeked out from the pillar such that Prahlad Maharaj could see him, in order to assure him, to give him some assurance that he was going to protect him. And so then Prahlad Maharaj replied that, yes, I see him in the pillar. He was actually peeking out. Anyway, so interesting story Srila Prabhupada told us. Hare Krishna, Prabhus.
Jai, thank you so much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I have to leave now, but you're most welcome to continue talking about these transcendental pastimes if you like. But for the sake of summarizing, Ganshraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur, Premanandi, Hare Hare Bo.